Hello everyone, it's Turin here, and welcome to another entry in our Community Cast series. In this game, we're going to have a matchup between the mighty John Ton, who will be piloting the Empire, and it looks like he has a little bit of a Rohirrim build over there, so very excited, facing off against the humble Hedgehog, who will be playing the Greenskins. So definitely going to be some good times. I'm really excited to see actually 4 Reichsguard in action. I haven't seen a game with like this many Cav in quite some time, so let's have some fun and get right into the army composition. So in the front line, John Ton has a front line of Flagellants, which in my opinion are one of the more cost-effective options against the Greenskins. Granted, they will probably, get beat in a straight fight against like Savage Orcs and Biggins and units like that. For their cost, they trade pretty well and can really hold up your opponents as they won't break and allow your big bad Reichsguard in the back line to really do some dirty work. So the Flagellants over here, as it doesn't have the traditional physical resist in the tooltip, but if you actually hover over the strength of the Penitent, they do have the 12% physical resist and plus 18 melee defense, which is conditional, but still it is applied in a multitude of different circumstances. So whole front line of Flagellants here. He does have the mighty Boar's Toadbringer up in the sky with a light wizard here on the ground with the Nets of Amnitok, and it looks like he actually has another ability here. So he has the Barona's Time Warp, which gives your unit 25% move speed and 34 melee attack. So pretty cool stuff there. He has 4 groups of Reichsguard, which I actually really like. They're going to be pretty good against like the Orc and Greenskin infantry. Where the Reichsguard might suffer a little bit is against like Orc Boars, because the Orc Boars have pretty heavy AP themselves. Granted, Orc Boar by Biggins don't have like the best defensive stats, and they're fairly lightly armored, so Reichsguard, can probably trade with them effectively for the most part. So he does have 2 groups of Reichsguard here, and then he also has 2 on the far side. In the back, he does have some handgunners here, another group here, and I believe he has a 3rd group, which is just regular handgunners, so no silver bullets actually. Aside from that, he does have 2 groups of spears, one here, one here, and that is pretty much it. So man, I'm really excited to see these guys. He's just going to go straight up King Theoden on this this Orc player here. So for the Orcs, he has a front line of Orc Biggins, pretty good choice against the Empire, very good against lightly armored infantry, and on top of that, they do have a bit of an anti-large bonus. So against Cav and monstrous units, things like that, they can do pretty well for themselves. So he has those guys mixed in with some Savage Orcs in the front line. He does have a Goblin Big Boss here and one here, and he also has a Night Goblin Shaman, which is pretty much an excellent choice in all matchups. For 300 resources, you're getting a decent caster, which with the Itchy Nuisance, you can see he's pretty hyped to play it. And so the Itchy Nuisance, and then on top of that, they have Sneaky Stealin', which is so powerful. It greatly reduces the Winds of Magic recharge rate for your opponent, and it's just a map-wide effect, so he doesn't need to be close. You can literally hide him in the corner or use him in the battle, whatever you feel like doing. On top of that, he does have some Savage Orc Biggins in the back line, probably to be used as kind of a spearman in the flanks. They do have a somewhat substantial anti-large bonus, so 46 base weapon strength with bonus, I guess it's only 8, but still, not a bad unit. And their AP really isn't that terrible. I mean, it's 12, so with that anti-large bonus, hopefully they can do a little bit of work against those Reichsguard. On top of that, he does have the mighty Wurzog riding on his glorious pig in the back line with a Hammer of Gork over here. He has the Crimson Killers, 2 groups of Nasty Skulkers, which I really like, just having a single group. Like pretty much no matter what the matchup is, even if they're not like an armored faction, the Nasty Skulkers are just really, really solid for slowing and mitigating a lot of harass mechanics. So over here on the far side, the battle has begun. You can see that the Morgub's Magi Marauders were doing a little bit of harass, but I don't think he saw the Light Wizard. And the Reichsguard are just going to come in here and just give these guys the dirty. You can see they're coming in pretty hard, and these goblins are just going to get massacred. So the Reichsguard come in there and just annihilate those guys right out of the gates. They're down to about 40 models, but they're probably just going to rout off the battlefield at this point. They're not that far away from the edge of the map, so they're probably just going to ride off and be done for. So that's a pretty big loss right out of the gates. And the Reichsguard, really capitalizing on that net effect. And did they actually take a little bit of damage from that? Oh, looks like they did. They took a few arrows, so at least they got some fire in before they routed off the battlefield. So the Empire front line, the Flagellants are advancing. The handgunners over here in the back are probably going to set up on this little lip right here, but they are taking some pretty substantial damage. And over here in the front, you can see that these Flagellants are also taking a little bit of work from the arrows, and just that's a pretty heavy little firing line back there. But they're doing some pretty good work against these units who do have I believe, how much armor do they actually have? Is it 0? They actually have 0 armor. But you can see I really love this strategy here. So in the front line, the Reichsguard are actually riding in with the Flagellants, and they're just going to get in there and just spank these guys. And it's just there's few things as cool as Chargeborn in this game, and this is just awesome stuff. Getting to see 4 Reichsguard in action. So they charge in there, do a little bit of shock damage to those Biggins, but they're most likely going to pull out. And you can see this other group gets a pretty good engagement against the Savage Orcs, and they're probably going to be able to push through to the back line. But he does have to be careful, as there are some Crimson Killers, as well as the Nasty Skulkers coming up to obviously try and get their slow off right there. So he does pull back with those troops. You can see the Light Wizard is kind of lurking, and over here in the forest, the Reichsguard are kind of going to start pressuring the flank. And this is going to be a pretty good kind of exposed flank here. They could collapse right here on these Biggins, or they could even go after the Orc Boar, the Savage Orc Biggins here, and but they'll just need to retreat relatively quickly. So the hordes of Rohirrim continuing to ride down and just collapsing on the flank of this Orc player. So the Orcs don't have the best leadership in general, so very good play by John Ton, just collapsing on the flanks and realizing that back here this probably wasn't an optimal trade, though it looked very juicy just seeing all those like low armor troops. But still, with their 30% physical resist, they're surprisingly effective there. But you can see a foot of Gork going down right now. Good thing I actually turned around there, and it goes right down on top of these Reichsguard. It's probably going to do a ton of damage. So Let's go ahead and zoom out here and just kind of take an overarching perspective. So that one Reichsguard taken down to about half health. This other one down to about 37 models. So pretty devastating damage on those Reichsguard there. So very, very well played by the Greenskin player with that nice foot of Gork. You can see this other group of Reichsguard coming in on the flank, and you see the mighty Toadbringer pushing in as well. As far as like the infantry battle go, that initial shock damage was really able to kind of set the Flagellants up for success. Granted, they are taking some serious losses. Now that the Savage Orcs are pushing in here, the Savage Orc Biggins, they're just going to cut these Flagellants to pieces. So in this part of the battle, it's probably going to go pretty well for the Greenskin player, but you can see the Reichsguard are just all over the place. Like every time I turn the camera, they're just slamming into orcs, just doing constant shock damage, and probably aside from that foot of Gork, not taking the most damage. So over here, you can see the Greenskin player does use Effigy of Beget on the Toadbringer. He is surrounded by some of the Crimson Killers and other troops here, but it doesn't seem like there's that much stopping power here for the orcs. And the missile troops, like right when he uses Effigy, you can see that John Ton does push in, and you can see the Reichsguard is just massacring these goblins in the back line, just riding them down. Just definitely some good stuff going on here in the back line. So unfortunately, that timing that he had right there with that Effigy of Beget, which might have been one of his chances to get back in the game, was shut down, because had he been able to Effigy him and then get a good firing line, that would have been quite strong, especially considering that the Empire player, John Ton, does not have Lore of Life. So over here in the back, you can see the handgunners are getting a pretty nice little firing line, and even though the Flagellants are kind of losing in the front line, there's still a very heavy Reichsguard force. You can see the group here, I mean 32 models here, it looks like they do have 30 here, so though they're pretty low on HP, they still do have a pretty good model count. You can see Wurzog and his War Pig is just kind of getting gatted down, and the Reichsguard in the back are going to start surrounding him. A lot of the Orc troops are starting to flee, but these Savage Orc Biggins, you know, despite being shaken, probably have racked up a lot of kills. So 71 kills here, but those Reichsguard are just doing so much work, so you could just kind of a true testament to John Ton's micro here. He's a very high-level Empire player. I'll try and cast more games of his on his channel. He's definitely much better at Empire than I am, so always a good time to see these cool strategies in play. So the Reichsguard pushing over here, going to get a nice charge over here on these Crimson Killers, which are, you know, one of the last saving graces here, but, you know, the Rohirrim care not for their defenses here, and you can also see that the handgunners are getting that's actually a pretty good little arc. It almost looks like they're shooting like up and over the hill, but you can see this Crimson Killer flying right into the camera. Definitely not having a good time. Not an ideal situation for him, but a lot of the Greenskin troops are starting to retreat as the Empire troops are finally starting to get their bearings. You can see another foot of Gork going down. I think he was trying to get on these spearmen here, but the spearmen are able to kind of step back there a little bit and dodge it. I don't know if that was intentional, but it looked very cool. So the Toadbringer is in pretty good shape. The Greenskins have a few heroic units left. They have a Goblin Shaman, a Goblin Big Boss over here, who's actually on foot. I would have liked to see them invest the 100 resources and put him on a wolf. It would have been very helpful for like keeping up with the Reichsguard and those other units here, but it looks like they're just kind of waddling around the map now. So unfortunately, the mighty Wurzog has been netted, and he's just going to get the business from the Toadbringer here, unfortunately. So yeah, not looking good for the old boar boy here. But if we zoom up and take an overarching look at things, the Empire player has a pretty healthy handgunner line in the back, which is very, very tough to come back from. And more often than not, when I've seen a lot of really like competitive Greenskin versus Empire games, the Empire will lose the front line, but then there's just this massive firing line. So as soon as the Biggins and other troops try and advance, they just get gunned down. So, you know, but I think the Reichsguard were able to just do so much cycle charging and just really clip the flanks of the front line. It was very, very effective, and I'm actually quite eager to see the kills on all of those different Reichsguard units in the post-breakdown screen. So very well played to both players. That's pretty much the game from there. It was an awesome time seeing 4 cav utilized. Like myself, I usually like to bring like 2 tops, but seeing 4 in action and actually used pretty effectively was nice. And the Greenskins are a decent faction to do that against because they don't have like your traditional spears. Granted, I think some Orc Boar Boys would have been really, really helpful here. The Orc Boar Boy Biggins with the anti-large and armor piercing. I think like maybe cutting like one group of these guys, or, you know, just finding a way to get like 2 of those, maybe cut one of your Goblin Big Bosses would have been very, very helpful in kind of counteracting that cycle charging play. But 39, 52, 142, and these must have been the ones that got through to the goblins in the back. Flagellants did a decent job. The Orc front line, as usual, did pretty well, but it's just a great game. Really fun to watch. Some good cinematic plays. So well played to both John Ton and a humble Hedgehog. Look forward to seeing you guys on ladder. And hey guys, thanks for watching. Have an excellent night and take care.